we'll open it up for just a general conversation. You know, obviously there's a lot of things we're working on, a lot of things we'd like feedback on, but you know, I guess you know, we could start off by talking about you know, any of the 3 new standards we're working on. If there's anything people would like to talk about, or things we should watch out for, or don't do this or do that, or anything, you know, we'd love feedback. So yeah.
So just a quick question on the local IX specification specifically. I think, Rob, you mentioned that you wanted to be like doubling the size of certified entities in the next 60 days.
I did hear him say that. I thought that was ambitious. Fortunately, we are not a publicly traded entity, and there was no MNPI there. Yeah.
Well, but the certification is not done yet. So I was just wondering what the actual timeline looks like. Maybe for all 3. What did we expect the timeline to be on these, or
sure? So look, I mean, all of this is contingent upon participation and the community developing it. I think Rob's, to be fair, this IXP standard for nonprofits or whatever smaller IXPs is largely done. So the timeline to get it out to market should be significantly shorter than the Cloud Connect or Edge standards, right? Specifically, we're trying to get that, you know, that standard out to the public, to our, I guess, to our list, to our member list, early December, so we can actually go out and get people certified. That is a bug, right? So we can go out and get people certified early part of the year, right? That's the game plan. I don't want to put too much, you know, hard dates out there, but we're hoping to have some positive momentum on that early next year. The other stuff may take longer. So the Cloud Connect committee is not formed, right? So we need people to actively get involved with that. Seems like something Christian could help with. There's a lot of people, right, who are doing, yeah, right? So there are a lot of people who can help with that. And then on the Edge DC committee, or you know, subcommittee, whatever you want to call it, working group, we're a little bit further along. And so we have, you know, several participants now in that committee, and we have a straw man of what that standard looks like, but still probably a little bit far away. I think that ties into use cases too, right? To Christian's point before, people aren't really deploying this stuff yet. So we're working with people as they deploy them and hopefully learning, and we can set those standards as we learn.
What are you doing to reach out to people to help with these? Because honestly, I'd never even heard of a couple of these before I came here.
Yeah, so that's a very fair point. So the question was, what are we doing to reach out, right? And so I think hopefully people have heard more from us over the last 6 months than the previous 6. We've been, as you saw in the presentation on the marketing slide, we've stepped up our marketing efforts meaningfully. Part of that effort has been calling for volunteers for these standards. On social media and through the email list, but there can be more, right? So really we're constantly asking, and we'd love it if you would participate. We'd love it if you would help find others, right? I mean, really, so it's, I turn it back to everybody who's saying, hey, let's you know, kind of continue to spread the word out there and get people involved. And, but you know, these are relatively new, to be fair, so. This isn't a question for me. This isn't for me, by the way. This is anybody who can be out. All right. Is this guy ready or what? Let's see.
He does not appear to be out there.
No. All right. Well, we can just hang out, I guess, unless anybody has anything else. Hughes? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. For those who don't know me, my name is Aaron Hughes. I'm one of the board members of OpenIX. One of the things that we've been talking about is expanding some of the areas of standardization. So initially the organization was about transparency in the internet exchange space and the data center space, and not necessarily specific standards that are being met. So one of the ideas that we've been discussing in our strategic planning meetings is whether or not we should try and actually define what the gold standard looks like in the internet exchange space and the data center space, and actually meet specific criteria for certifications of different levels. And secondly, what is sort of the minimum set of standards to meet certification for the internet exchange space and the data center space, and then maybe a tertiary element of something like a mid-tier. The idea being to drive more value in the actual certification process. So each year you have a plaque that says, you know, we are the diamond level of IX certification, or the bronze standard, or sort of the gold in the middle. And so the question to the room is, do we as a community think that has real value, or you could actually show this off to your prospective customers? Hey, look, we actually do meet this diamond level, and here are all of the specific elements that we meet to get this certification each year. So that's sort of a question to the room, is it worth investigating that level of effort into creating that kind of standard?
I think for the bigger exchanges is maybe not that important, but I've talked to some of the smaller guys out there, and I think really getting them going, you know, making them be, I've heard the term, you know, from, let's say, used as hobby. People refer to them as a hobby exchange, right? I think there's a opportunity to help them move beyond what is a hobby. Hey, no, we're real, you know, so there may be an opportunity, not necessarily for those bigger exchanges, but on the smaller side, I think, you know, from what I've heard just from feedback, I think it could indeed, again, ideally would speak to someone who is part of that, but I think it would help them.
The only question that brings up in my mind is it a self-certification that I am abiding by all these rules or objectives, or what measurement is used and how is it measured, and who's the independent body doing the measurements to make sure that the folks who are getting these certifications are actually doing what they say they're doing?
Right, so I mean, that's certainly up for the committee to decide, I suppose. You know, it's a bit like self-attesting SOC versus an external audited SOC. You know, those kind of things are options as we go down the path. Really, the question for us as a whole is about recertification. You know, each year you want to be able to maybe self-attest and maybe an audited attestation to say that we're not just transparent, but, you know, we actually meet X, Y, or Z level of certification. And it's really a question about the people who go through the certification process, not just to disclose that they've gone through this process in a way that is well vetted and known and supported by ANSI accreditation, et cetera, but this list of items actually means something of real value. And, you know, so I guess the real question is, should we continue down this path and try and start sending this kind of communication out to the community as a whole, and potentially create these, you know, high and minimum standards in those two spaces?
You know, one of the thoughts is that, you know, who is this proving, you know, who are we proving these to, right? So, you know, who are the networks that are the most, let's say, reluctant to go until they know there's a certain level of expertise or whatever? And maybe the answer is to talk to some of those. I suspect those are big content networks. Maybe not exclusively, but that would be my initial thought. But, you know, and they're, of course, the most important typically to get an exchange going. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see if there'd be any dissenting opinion. To me, it'd be interesting to see if there was it was meaningful, if they knew a certain exchange of a certain size was accredited, and would that change behavior in terms of connecting?
So it seems the real challenge here isn't so much defining the standard, what's a gold and a platinum, but how do you make it meaningful, not just to the entity being certified, but more importantly to the end user that seeks that out. How do we make the OpenIX certifications have the same impact as, say, a LEED building certification, where someone may say, oh, I want to be there because I know this building's being run efficiently and there's some other motivation there.
Yeah, that's actually exactly the premise of the conversation. So I compared it to something like, the Energy Star compliance, or, we want to be that standard as an organization to say this has real value, and not only are we trying to create that value, but your prospects and customers want to see that in order to enter that space.
Hi. So I have a little bit of experience with exchanges, and I have never even considered looking at, sorry guys, I know where I'm sitting, but that's okay. I've never even considered looking at, is this certified or not? If you want to do something, it sounds to me like an Uptime Institute thing, where somebody's putting on there for marketing purposes more than anything else, and that might be okay, but if you do that, I would personally, and feel free to outvote me or whatever, I would personally not suggest the bronze, gold, platinum, diamond, whatever, because the limits are so low. If you go into, what you call it, a hobby exchange, then you know what you're getting. If you go into an Equinix, you know what you're getting. And the fact one's gold and one's bronze is not going to make a difference to the decision. I don't think that the certification is a bad idea, but I think that the tiers are probably not going to sway anyone, is my problem. And, I've run exchanges, and I've decided on literally 100 exchanges or more to join, and I can't imagine doing that, but maybe I'm a corner case. I don't know. Sorry.
Richard's next. It's all good feedback.
I just add to, there's a certification, there's also the concept of transparency. And so by checking the boxes in the different columns to the level, you can help fast track a selection process. The data center or the exchange is transparently showing the end user, where they have exposure, how they're built, what their setup looks like under the hood, and let the end user make the decision. And so I see that as a mid-tier to an actual audit. And so there is this level of transparency. And as we go into edge data centers where you're now not making a decision for a single facility, but potentially thousands, and as you're using SDN fabrics where there might be 20 overlays in 2 different or 10 different facilities, the transparency and the amount of time it takes to feel comfortable with a vendor, really needs to be reduced. And I think this should be seen as a way to fast track that process.
ANSI. It's not for my benefit, it's for OIX's benefit. So the question is, to what extent does the customization or tiering of the standards, let me ask first, does it involve in any sense substantive modifications in terms of customization for particular markets or types, levels, sizes of the standards of OIX1 or OIX2? Is that what's contemplated?
In this particular case, I'm asking the question, should we spend effort on developing new ones that have specific elements that need to be met, so specific criteria? They are not modifications to OIX1 and OIX2. This would be a new effort for new standards.
Right. And so then what would be the continuing effect and sort of viability of OIX1 and 2?
They would completely survive as
They would
testing to transparency.
Right. So the question, yeah.
He's asking the community.
Right. Yeah, so this is just feedback, not to me, right? This is, effectively, I'm asking for people to give the stewards of this organization feedback on our strategic direction for 2019 and going forward.
Right.
And this is one of the topics of exploration. So nothing specific has been documented. We're not talking about altering any existing path. This is, should we put the effort into exploring new standards in these spaces? Does that have value for this community?
I understand. I'm only raising the question.
And one other thing, to be clear, the standard that Chris's committee is promulgating or pushing forward right now is specifically this type of thing, right? So it is exactly what Aaron's talking about. He's just saying, should we continue to go down this path, right?
Yeah, I'm just flagging the...
But we would need, any modification would need to go through the ANSI process. We know that.
No, right, and the question is there distance that would be put between, not it would not diminishing or retiring OIX1 or OIX2, but remember, the conferral of the designation, ANS, is on those. It wouldn't be on these. What the value that you're, in a sense, or at least I was proposing.
We haven't submitted them yet, though. We haven't submitted.
No, I know you're not. I know you're. I'm just raising this to look down the
We
road.
would also look to submit those in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just looking down the road.
Thank you.
Anyway, so at any time, whether you feel like getting on a mic or sending an email, you can always email stewards@open-ix.org and send us your feedback. Preferably if you have feedback for the next year or two in terms of strategic direction of the organization. We'd like to have that before February 1 of this upcoming year, when our next strategy meeting is. Back to you. Was this open?
Not yet? Is it yet? Not yet? Okay. Open mic, anybody else? Anybody want to freestyle? I'll drop a beat. No? Okay. I think we could just break, I guess. I don't need to sit in. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. This was awesome. Productive.